Hey, doing a mic check at 125.
Doing a mic check at 122.
Test, test, test.
Test, test, test.
Well, it does look like we're hot now, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on with my streaming laptop. So, let me get my headphones back on here.
Yep, yep.
And this is a difficult one, guys. We got Dan in the chat already saying good morning from New Orleans. So, I'm not sure if we can be heard yet, to be honest, but good morning from Vietnam, everybody, if you can hear us. So, we've got a lot to talk about today. And I want you to go ahead and fill your cup with whatever bitter brew you're drinking. And I'm going to wait for Dan to give us an update. Can you hear us in the chat? Dan, I'm here with Sash, as you guys know. How you doing, Sash?
I'm doing much better this week. What about you, Josh?
I am doing all right. I'm a little confused about the tech issue side of things. I'm going to type Dan a message. What you been reading in the news cycle?
Um, Everything is in complete limbo right now.
Everything is in complete limbo. I suppose that's a little bit accurate. Um, I'm not sure what I can do here to fix this audio problem. I don't think there's audio. Anyway, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. Mouth moving, no sound. I
It says
wonder.
something in Chinese.
It did say something in Chinese, and I'm getting. All right. Looks like we are good now.
I can't. I
All right. Let me try to fix that now. All right. What about now? All right. I
yes.
think
Now I can hear you.
beeps and statics.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We've still got some static in the line. I need to put this soundboard down. Oh my, I'm having All right. I think that we are finally good. I do apologize for everyone out there. That was our roughest start yet. But it does seem like we're going now. Can you hear me, Sash?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me, Josh?
All right, yeah, I can hear you, and my audio level does look good. I need to come around here and mute the YouTube before it starts playing. Dan, I'm wondering if you can hear me now. Sorry about that, especially if you're wearing earphones. Dan, that was probably pretty uncomfortable for you. It went back in our monitors too, and it was not a fun picture. He heard us for a second, but here we are. So, I have titled this episode, and it's our roughest start yet, but I've titled this episode Now or Later, and I guess we're still looking at a lot of unknowns in the presidential election. You've been saying you're locked in limbo there, Sash. So tell me about what you've been reading and tell me what your impression is.
Um, Trump is claiming a victory. Biden, however, is not really talking. He's just tweeting a bunch of vapid platitudes on Twitter.
A bunch of bad platitudes
No,
on
vapid,
Twitter.
vapid.
Oh,
vapid.
vapid.
Like
Yeah, but you don't think Joe Biden really runs his own Twitter, do you?
No, of course not. No,
Okay.
No.
I haven't seen any public statements of him except for the election night, and then maybe one about a week later. That was pretty milquetoast. What about you?
He made an appearance at a church yesterday, right as the riots were going on. Oh yeah, there were riots on Sunday and
Oh
Saturday
yeah, there were straight up brawls in my
in
hometown of
Washington.
D.C.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Antifa and the Proud Boys, they went at it hard.
That's exactly right. So
Yeah.
tell me, what's your impression of it? How do you make out that? Is there a good guy in that situation?
No, you have a lot of these conservative journalists that are only picking out video clips that fit their narrative, and you have the same with the liberal ones.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've seen, and I've been mostly
Especially
devouring.
that Andy No guy.
And Andy Ngo, the VQ, huh?
Yeah, that guy's a dick. Like he shared only the clip that fit his perspective, not the entire thing.
Right.
Because if you saw that, you could see that the Proud Boys kind of started that.
Yeah, I think the Proud Boys kind of assumed that Antifa was going to there to be violent, so they felt that violence could start on their end. Because remember the official story of the right, I don't know how true this is at all, but the official story that the Gateway pundit and whatnot are pushing is that there was some 10,000s of people down there for the Million Trump March, and a million. I don't remember what it was called. Maybe it was the
Yeah,
Million Man MAGA
It
rally.
was a million MAGA march.
MAGA March, right?
but,
Not his name.
Yeah,
So anyway,
but-
and then the Proud Boys deployed because all the Antifa Twitter accounts were starting to call people to meet in certain areas. So the official story is the Proud Boys kind of deployed to play defense so that everybody could get home safe.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's a viable story. But one thing that really pissed conservatives off was actually Trump.
How
Like-
so?
Trump did not tweet about the violence until it was all over with.
I mean, so
I mean, because it was mainly his supporters getting attacked.
yeah, but what did you want him to say? Stop attacking my supporters in D.C. He's one of the most followed Twitter accounts at all. If anything he tweets is going to draw more focus and more people out of their homes and make people more angry, wouldn't you want him to not tweet until it's over?
That's a fair point. That is genuinely a fair point. Okay. From that perspective, I see why he didn't do it. But if you see these Twitter guys like Mike Cernovich and Jack Pasayevic, they were pretty mad that Trump wasn't tweeting as it was happening.
But aren't they guys who are really literally only relevant because of their
Trump.
Twitter accounts?
They're irrelevant because of Donald Trump.
Nah, because they would still out there be given the counter perspective if Hillary Clinton won, and they'd still be like they're the
They
right
wouldn't
wing.
be as
They're the right
big as now,
wing
yeah.
mainstream. Well, if it wasn't Donald Trump in office, Twitter wouldn't be as big as it is now.
I
Like
have
the
to
fact that
disagree
the fact
with
that
that.
our president, who's such a polarizing president, is available for communication to the common man on a social media is never before been done. Barack Obama's offices would hand select tweets to do this interaction with. But like we have seen enough mistakes come through on the Trump tweets to know that this isn't an official review that happens. Like this
Okay.
is, and Donald Trump was a Twitter celebrity since Twitter was viable. Like this is a totally unique thing. Barack Obama had this big old thing back in early 2010 where he would always have his BlackBerry, right? So he was still available to certain Americans who knew his email, his BlackBerry server email, right? Like it wasn't even a lockdown NSA phone. So employees at BlackBerry could pretty much read anything that he was saying or anything like that. And but Donald Trump, even during Barack Obama, was a Twitter personality attacking Barack Obama. You can go back to 2012 and see like his anti-birther tweets and his "Where are you from, Kenyan bastard" tweets, and like "Why is Obama out golfing when he should be running the country" tweets. And
That one came back to bite.
I don't know if it came back to bite him because I don't think anyone who liked Donald Trump was further swayed by that, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that was baseless fodder. Like yeah, it was used maybe the first time relevant, but
But then once he started playing golf himself, that just
well, yeah, but he's Donald Trump. He's not gonna stop golfing just because he's president.
fair enough. No, but in regards to the shit that's happening, man, it's like I've never seen such fucking partisanship on both sides.
Yeah, I think, but I mean that's like the title of this. I didn't get to say my spiel. So, good morning, everyone from Vietnam. I'm
Oh, shit.
Joshua from Vietnam. Please go ahead and fill your cup with whatever bitter brew you're drinking because we're going to be talking about the weekend's events, the past week's events, and the future events. The title of this episode is called Now or Later because that's the game that we're being played right now. We have two possible situations for the way that this year ends, and they're both shockingly terrible. And I don't mean Donald Trump is shockingly terrible because myself, I find the man shockingly hilarious. But here we are on this brink where the news media has all out called it for Biden. Everyone, even our nationalistic Hindu leader of India, Modi, congratulated Biden.
That surprised me. Even China joined in.
No, China doesn't surprise me. China is all for the Biden win, right? Like he's their boy. China would love them some Joe Biden president. But what surprised me was Modi because Modi is a Trump ally. And I
Like a
wonder if
massive, probably the biggest international Trump guy in the whole world.
probably
Not even
I would
close
say
in the-
he
not even
hasn't
close.
been as influential yet as he can be. I think Modi could do a lot more for the international Trump acceptance, but he's got some of his own problems to
Yeah.
work out
They
right
got
now.
massive problems with the Hindu and Muslims just going at it there.
I mean, not real Muslims. They've got problems with the caliphate's refugee insurgents. Good Muslims tend to be law-abiding, peaceful people, just not members of caliphates.
fair enough.
So Anyway, Modi even congratulated, I was reading an article today that I don't even have pulled up because it's not worth giving him more views or mentioning who it is, but Donald Trump tweeted something like he only won in the perspective of the news media if blah 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 blah, and then talks about fake news, whatever, right? And so his niece Mary, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this
Yeah,
actor.
yeah. His niece Mary.
Okay, so his niece Mary then did this really like I could do in probably first or second grade with MS Paint level Photoshop, and rearrange the tweet to just say he won. And the words he and then won did happen, but since that's a fragment, there was another part of the sentence that said in the eyes of the news media or something like this.
The eyes of the fake news.
Yeah, in the eyes of the fake news, but literally there was a headline on Drudge today that literally said Donald finally admits that he won. And this really cracked me up. And I do have one Donald Trump Twitter worth showing, so let me pull that up. Um, let's go bigger, and I'll just read it aloud because I know you can't really see that, Stosh. But
Actually, there was one news story that I did hear. It's basically Trump has this contingency plan that if he is forced out, he's going to get his people to invest in Newsmax.
Yeah, I saw that one leaking today. I think that's hilarious and not true. If Donald Trump was to start his own channel, he would do so from scratch, and it would be called Trump.
Trump.
Yeah, it would be called Trump News, of course. So Donald Trump tweets out 11 hours ago, why does the fake news media continuously assume that Joe Biden will ascend to the presidency, not even allowing our side to show, which we are just getting ready to do, how badly shattered and violated our great Constitution has been in the 2020 election? It was attacked, perhaps like never before. From large numbers of poll watchers that were thrown out of vote counting rooms in many of our states to millions of ballots that have been altered by Democrats, only for Democrats, to voting after the election was over, to using radical left owned Dominion voting systems turned down by Texas and many others because it was not good or secure. Those responsible for the safeguarding of our Constitution cannot allow the fake results of the 2020 mail in election to stand. The world is watching. So Donald Trump tweets this one out, and of course, it's all flagged up with the hilarity that is, the Twitter warnings and whatnot. I don't know if you've seen those.
My only retort to what he has said there is that this is what's been going on this entire time, like all throughout this country's history. Like vote
You mean
rigging.
voting fraud?
Yes, it's been going on forever.
Well, sure. I mean, like in 1864, there was a man named Abraham Lincoln who was trying to be foiled in voter fraud, and what they did is they altered mail-in ballots of soldiers to be able to oust him, and it was found out, and it was something like 500 votes. And there's a reason that Donald Trump for the past how long has been comparing himself to Abraham Lincoln for like the past year, and he's like, I'm
Jesus.
maybe the best president except for black people, except for maybe Abraham Lincoln, right? Like he said that like 9 or 10 times. Hilariously through. So, but here's my point on the now or later, right? Because one of these men is going to become president on the 20th. And now it doesn't matter who the president is, because if we're talking exclusively about like the new world order or globalist agenda, yeah, Biden's worse, and Biden's already said we're going to join the Paris Accord and print money, and we're going to give stimulus, print money, and we're going to what else has he promised? He said on his website that he's for the Green New Deal, but that's just too hilariously silly to consider.
No, he's not.
Yeah,
Like,
he doesn't even know.
Like, here's the thing: is that the one really good thing about Biden is that he's going to kill the left.
Well, you say that, but if you kill the moderate left, if you kill.
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about like the Bernie people, the AOC types. They need to go. They're cancer.
Oh yeah, but Biden's not going to kill them. Biden is
No, no,
going
no.
to strengthen them.
Like not like kill them, but like he's going to like phase them out.
No. No, no, no. AOC will gain in popularity as she gets to show she's not a partisan hack and contend with the neoliberal Biden, right? Like Biden is neoliberal. He is Koch brother but blue, right? And he totally is going to be, or he totally is hated by the progressives. It's one of the reasons that I know this voter fraud thing is so obvious. And the reason why it's so obvious to me is
There's
because
a
the
lot of hate
progressives
Biden.
would not have turned out in such giant numbers for Joe flippin' Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yes, I agree with that.
There's no way he got the most votes in the history of the United States. There's no way that Black Jesus Barack Hussein Obama himself generated more votes or less votes, sorry,
And Joe Biden.
than Joe Biden on a national scale. But he happened to beat Joe Biden in every single major municipality but the 5 being contested right now. Oops. Oops, oops, oops. It's ridiculous.
I personally think the courts are going to screw Trump.
You think
Yes.
that the courts are going to screw Trump.
Yes.
All right, so Donald Trump has made how many appointments to the Supreme Court?
More than most presidents.
How many?
About 285.
I said something like that overall, but I said just the Supreme Court because here
Three.
comes the bombshell, right? And who are the last 2 he put in?
Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett.
Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. And what were their notable achievements
None.
prior? Oh. Did you not know they were both lawyers working on Bush v. Gore in favor of Bush?
I did not.
They were both in the year 2000.
Oh yeah, right.
Working
Yeah,
on
that's
Bush
why
v.
Bush.
Gore
That's why
as
Bush
private
campaigned
lawyers.
for Kavanaugh.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like when Kavanaugh got hit with the rape charges, it was Bush who called the Senate Republicans and told them.
Oh, really?
to
To hold the
confirm it.
line?
Yeah.
Oh, really? How
It
interesting.
was
I
actually
didn't know that.
Bush that got
Hold up, yeah.
Kavanaugh in.
No,
it wasn't Trump.
I see. But Trump got Amy Coney Barrett in.
Yeah. That was a very impressive power play.
Oh, it was. And it came in just in time for the election, right? Or the C-election. So now we have 2 ways forward. We have Biden wins, and half of Americans who are very sick of losing culture wars feel like the election was robbed from them in front of their face.
You're talking about Donald Trump?
I'm talking about his fans, and I don't mean his constituents, right? His constituents aren't so dangerous. This man has fans. This man packs stadiums full.
And let's not forget QAnon either. That's
Yeah, I know QAnon. We'll talk about that in a moment, but like, let that not be undersaid. That Donald Trump packs stadiums full. There are very few men on this planet that can pack a stadium full. One man, like you're talking about Bon Jovi, can do it. You're talking about maybe some of the best comedians in the world. Like, I doubt Dave Chappelle could anymore, but Eddie Murphy sure as heck could at one point in time. Maybe
Eddie
even
Murphy.
could
That
now.
guy was not funny.
You need to watch Delirious and Raw again because those are probably 2 of the funniest comedy specials ever made. He wasn't funny in movies,
Okay,
and
fair.
you're young,
Yeah,
so you know, like, he had so many terrible non-funny movies. Watch his stand-up, both Delirious and Raw. They're the funniest things on the earth. His Michael Jackson impressions when in Michael Jackson's talking to Bill Cosby is some of the funniest things in the world.
Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby.
Yes, yeah. Eddie Murphy was a comedic god. So anyway, we're talking about individuals who could fill a stadium full. Some of the better comedians could. Bands can, and like I said, some one hit like Ozzy Osbourne and Bon Jovi and these guys could do it. But Donald Trump can do this. No other politician could.
No way.
Obama was pretty damn close, and I think his fame might have gone up since presidency because politics have gotten more popular since his presidency. And now
That is true. People are more so entrenched in politics.
sure, well they've ruined the NBA, they've ruined the NFL, they've ruined NBA, like every single American pastime. Hollywood is absolute terrible, and broadcast TV has nothing worth
politics has
watching.
always been in Hollywood.
Not this blatant.
Fair.
Go watch old Seinfeld and see if you would know who's running for office, right? As opposed to once Bush is in, you'll hear like 3 or 4 jokes, but now everything, it doesn't stop.
Do you think though one well,
Dan Moore says he's tripping out about our backdrop. He loves that the
Okay.
political talk gets delivered while traveling through deep space.
right.
It's
Fuck,
to
what was I
remind you
gonna
that
say?
it's all a show. It's nothing but theater.
Yeah. But one thing about Biden that will be a good thing, I think people will be much more centrist.
No, because here's what's going to happen if Biden wins, right? Because you're right. There's election fraud in every single election. There really is. And there probably always will be. But the average American was not woke to it, right? Like it's something that the average American would call you crazy and call you a conspiracy theorist.
Even
about.
back 10 years, they would have.
Yes, they would. Yes, they would. 10 years ago, if you implied that in 2008 that Obama won because of voter fraud, and it's very possible he did win, but look who he ran against, John McCain. Like
That guy's a clown.
He's a clown. He's a traitor to true patriots.
A war criminal.
A rhino, right? He's a self-admitted war criminal because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Tokyo Rose letter, but when John McCain was visiting our fair Vietnam, he bombed the shit out of Hanoi. And then after he did that, he betrayed his brothers in arms and admitted that he was acting in violation of the Geneva Convention. And he said that all Americans on Vietnam soil were terrorists. And he said this in a public recording that
But didn't they make him say it because
they
he was-
bribed it out of him. So if you look at the
Oh, yeah, right,
Hilton Hotel, what is it? Hanoi Hilton, the name of the famous jail that was I think it was a jail built by French, and then it became a POW camp in the times of the war. So
Hey,
there was a special section for soldiers. What's that?
Sorry.
You can fiddle around with the connection. I've got stereo on mine, so it's probably between yours. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So John McCain was given more privileged access to different area where there were like volleyball courts, and then there were like magazines and TV and things like that. So there was a special project run by actually the Cubans on brainwashing and torturing Americans into submission, but they found that it pretty much utterly destroyed them as human beings. So while no POWs were treated, those POWs were treated well. The average POW was treated like shit, but it was so bad that they could bribe you into making these Tokyo Rose videos, not have to torture you into them. The government, and there's a book, I can't remember the title, by Captain William Wright, who was a prisoner of war.
I think I know that book. I don't know the name.
He was another pilot that went down over. Actually, he went down pretty south of Hanoi and then was marched back to Hanoi. And he writes about the separation, and he writes like what the treatment was like, and it's a really more realistic insight. Now, he never says John McCain did this, but he talks about the special boys, right, who traded out their friends for lollipops and fancy pants. And now, like all of us,
Wasn't McCain's father a big time general though?
I am not sure his role. He was pretty big in the military. I think Ted Cruz's father was an admiral and McCain's was a general, but I'm not sure if I've got those right.
Okay.
So, I mean, I agree that the American soldiers were pretty much on a terrorist mission, but the individual young men needed to stick together through that hell that they went through. And there's a huge difference between the young men who bought the lie and those who crafted the lie that they were sold. So, have you? What I'm talking about right now is the election fraud. Right now is so obvious that every fan of Trump, and there's a lot of fans of Trump. Remember, this man can fill stadiums. Every fan of Trump now is following the soap opera, and they know there's clear election fraud. Like, they know it.
Even Biden's supporters acknowledge that.
I haven't heard that far, but have you seen? Do you know Miss Sidney Powell?
Welcome back.
That's
According to
Michael Flynn's lawyer, right?
It is Michael Flynn's lawyer, right? So let's go. Let's go into YouTube here and then make sure I've got all this right. Now the timing's probably going to be a little bit off because I'm going to play the audio from my phone so that Sasha and I can hear it as well. But let's take a listen here.
public records, Dominion voting machines are used in 2,000 jurisdictions in 30 states. According to experts, if one site has a flaw, other sites are likely to as well, which is why Texas rejected using Dominion software 3 times, raising concerns that the system was not safe from fraudulent.
So she's talking about the Dominion software that was used so much on the 30 different states. Sorry, I had a mind blank there. And this is Sunday morning futures on Fox News.
Evidence of fraud to launch a massive criminal investigation. Sydney, thanks very much for being here. We appreciate your time this morning. I want to get right into it. We just heard about the software made by Smartmatic from Rudy, and I want to get your take on what you and I spoke about just a few minutes ago, and that is a gentleman named Peter Neffenger. Tell me how he fits into all of this.
Yes, well, he is listed as its former Admiral Peter Neffenger, or retired Admiral Peter Neffenger. He is president and on the board of directors of Smartmatic, and it just so happens he's on Mr. Biden's presidential transition team that's going to be non-existent because we're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states. And President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections. He was fully briefed on it. He saw it happen in other countries. It was exported internationally for profit by the people that are behind Smartmatic and Dominion. They did this on purpose. It was calculated. They've done it before. We have evidence from 2016 in California. We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
Wow. So, Sydney,
what can you say about that?
I say it's time to present the proof because...
To who?
Wait, let me explain. Okay.
Well, I've got lots of ways to prove it, Maria, but I'm not going to tell on national TV what all we have.
That's my issue.
I just can't do that.
Do you know how court cases work?
Okay,
Yes,
but you have
but
a small time frame here. The elections are supposed to be certified in early December. Do you believe that you can present this to the courts and be successful within this just couple of weeks?
Well, let me put it this way. First of all, I never say anything I can't prove. Secondly, the evidence is coming in so fast, I can't even process it all. Millions of Americans have written, I would say by now. Definitely hundreds of thousands have stepped forward with their different experiences of voter fraud. But this is a mass.
So, Sidney Powell doesn't need to present no evidence to you because that's not how our legal system works.
She has to present it to the courts.
She needs to present it to the courts, right? And she's working on that, so she says. But here's the point that I wanted to make off with that clip is
December 13th, right?
it's not. Have you ever read the law that says all the states have to report it December 13th?
No, not really.
It's like from the late 1800s, and it's something like 4 pages long just on this, and it's so flippin' vague about what happens and whether a state can be invalidated or not and things like that. Like, it's a dumpster fire of a law, which means there is there isn't like there could even be a legal battle about what happens if the election is not decided. And there's some wording in that law that seems to suggest that the House of Representatives can decide the president, which makes us really take a look at the fact that the Republicans are now claiming voter fraud to the extent that they should have won the House too. And that's a whole nother interesting ball game. But then you talk about it getting broken up into a bunch of little courts, which isn't like current American government, right? Like, we are very centralized now, and everything gets sent to the top in this high profile. I don't see how it gets decided by anything but the Supreme Court. And now we've got women like Sidney Powell, who all of Trump fans know because Trump fans stood by Flynn for a while. Um,
For a
all
while, they still stick by him.
They stick by him more now than they did, but there was a time when they waned on Flynn.
It's because of Paul Manafort, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think that was Manafort's stuff. So, anyway,
What was that?
that was my cell phone. So, we have all these voters who are just totally aware that the election is just trying to get cheated out of them. And they're going to be really, really flippin' angry if that happens. And if they lose faith in the ability to vote these people out, then this kind of a Joe Biden, who, remember, it won't be Joe Biden very long. The dude could be dead already just with like robot exoskeleton keeping him in line. And like, that means it's going to be Kamala Harris. Like, if you're talking Trump was authoritarian, wait until that woman gets in control. Like, it's going to make Trump and Obama look like little tiny puppy dogs. Like, we've all met women like that before. We know what she's going to turn into. It's going to be insane. So anyway, you already have all these right.
I don't think she'll have power.
Watch her try to grab it. Watch her make friends with AOC and threaten to crush that little girl, and watch her rally the progressives. Like, she can do it. She's gross, but she can do it. But then on the other side, you have all this news media pumping 100% that Biden has won without any question, right? Boris Johnson congratulated him. Like I said, Modi from India congratulated him. Benjamin Netanyahu congratulated him. Of course, like he's done with Kushner. Like, didn't they say Trump was literally the Messiah come back to Israel? Like, of course, nothing. I mean, Israel was so friendly to Trump for so long. How many guys on the 4chan polls were saying that Israel really was like the reason that Trump got in, and he was the Zionist shill, and Kushner was the proof, and even his own daughter converted to Judaism, right? Like, you had all those people, and then Benjamin Netanyahu congratulates Biden. Like, what's the argument there?
I think all that tells me is that they're all controlled by the same people, man.
It does seem so, but that's
again,
my point. Like they're putting
like you said before, this is all theater.
It is.
At some point, man, people will stop giving a shit, and maybe that's what this is about.
People don't stop giving a shit about this. Like, that's not how it works. You're not going to turn American after you've hyper-politicized them and hyper-polarized them. You're not going to just go click, oh, I don't care anymore.
Actually, that happened to me. I just don't care at this point.
Well, I mean, it's happened to me as well, but, like, I mean, I'm aware that space is fake, despite the fact that we're flying through it. So it makes things a little bit different. But when you can see behind, but that's not what people are going to see, right? Because all these Trump fans are going to see their election robbed from them. But then if Trump goes in, then you have the rest of the world who like still is so fast asleep that they don't even conceive that the elections could be stolen. They're going to see the courts step in, and that's not going to depolarize them.
Well, you kind of saw this in Belarus, though. Could we have a situation like Belarus?
I mean, how?
In Belarus, you had service members like fucking turning on Lukashenko.
I don't think so. I mean, like, who would they turn on? Would they turn on Biden, who's going to create more wars and give them more money, or are they going to turn on Trump, who's like, no, they're not going to turn on Trump. Trump doesn't need the military. The plan never was to be the military. We have over 185,000 federal police officers. Like, the military won't be needed.
Oh, okay.
You violate the Constitution with deploying the military. And the problem with deploying the military in violation of our Constitution is the fact that according to the Military Code of Conduct, you then not only give every general, but every captain, every lieutenant, and every sergeant the right to question the command of the commander-in-chief, right? Like, you are allowed to question command in the American military if certain things are being done, if certain violation of laws are being done. And that would be one of them. So you deploy the military and their own code of conduct cause them to stand up against you. That doesn't make sense. You don't want to deploy military people with military culture against God-fearing Americans. They won't fight. Now, the police culture is very different.
Yes.
And the Federal Corrections Department is very different. They can be deployed. But it doesn't matter because the idea is it's like what Kissinger said about UN troops 10, 15 years ago, where the goal is to make it so that Americans are begging for UN troops to step foot in their cities. Right? Now, do you know the quote that I'm talking about?
Vaguely, yes. It's basically it's actually kind of like what went on in Nepal after the royal family got massacred.
Yeah.
There was so much chaos that the United Nations stepped in and they took arms from people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And after the Christchurch shooting, it happened in
New Zealand?
yeah, it happened
Really?
in New Zealand just like that. Yeah,
UN,
huge.
really?
No, I don't think it was the UN. I think it was just New Zealand's government, but they did the gun grab. And I don't know if it literally will be the UN here either, or whether it'll be the federal police. Like, keep in mind these federal police officers that I'm talking about, the 185,000 of them. There weren't that many until 9/11.
Okay.
Yeah, so Dan's talking about how that Trump supporters are civil, will go to court and do things by the book. By the time the court date comes around, Biden will be 6 months into office. The whole system is corrupt, right? But that's my problem. The only way that they really could get Trump supporters to start to cause unrest, because the reality is that Trump supporters have families, and you don't tend to want to riot when you have a family. Because if you
That's
have
a fair point,
if
yes.
you have a family, you have to protect them, you have to provide for them, you have to go to work, right? Like, these Trump supporters are not the breed to easily go riot. But how long until
How many more Kyle Rittenhouses, man? Like,
what was wrong with Kyle Rittenhouse? That kid was awesome.
I mean, dude, okay.
I think he was a military asset. I think that was planned too, because that kid's trigger discipline was like Navy SEAL level, not 17-year-old terrified out of his mind level. The fact that he gets hit on the back of the head, blows the hand out of the guy with the handgun, kills the guy going to steal his gun,
You think
and
it was
then
MK Ultra?
what's that?
You think it was MK Ultra?
No, I think he was a plant. I think he was an actor. I think he was a military member or a SWAT team member that was acting as a random dude, a random kid. I think that there was no way a 17-year-old kid that terrified has trigger discipline like a Navy SEAL.
He
Remember,
was,
remember the
precise.
guy who's just about to go after him, but then puts his hands up, and then he lowers his gun, doesn't shoot him, walks backwards for like 3 steps, and then literally turns his back to this mob that was about to kill him. What kind of level of confidence is that? And then walks into police like hands up, like.
But the police didn't take him in, which makes me question that.
Wait, if the police didn't take him in, that supports my theory, not yours.
No, yeah, like the cops, like
Right.
after he shot those people, they didn't take him. They let him go for, like he went back to Chicago.
Illinois. He didn't
Yeah.
live in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ended up turning himself in Illinois and then was denied bail once he got transferred to Wisconsin. But the point is that it's hard to believe that a 17-year-old would have that level of discipline. Like, he was perfect. He was flawless. He only used his gun when he absolute had to. He made the exact shots that he needed to make to save his life. He didn't shoot the guy who was chasing him a minute before. He turned his back on a mob that was just dangerous to him. Like, all these things and these levels of discipline really baffle me with Kyle Rittenhouse. But that's not the point. He was being attacked, right? If they want the left to continue to riot, then they're going to put Trump back in the courts, like Dan's saying, right? Then the left's going to feel that Biden was taken away from them, and then they'll riot. And
I disagree with that. I think if the left continues rioting, it's not because they think they stole it from Biden. It has to do with the fact that they just fucking hate Trump and his supporters.
No, but what if yeah, but they'll how do you think those are separate, right? Like they're going to take any fuel to that fire of hatred. They're not going to come to a logical decision that
The left despises Joe Biden, man. Like they're not
they're
not going to riot.
But what will the narrative be about how Trump gets 3 Supreme Court picks, and then they go into the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court hands them the election after everyone said that Joe Biden would win, right?
Yeah, they're gonna riot.
Everyone.
They're going to riot.
Right. But the question is, and this will be whether Biden even has a chance, right? Because it's about Biden is faster to the globalist agenda. But their main goal right now is to cause as much chaos in America and to Americans as possible. So, and this goes back to Dan's point as well. If they put in Biden, will it be enough with how public they're being? Will it be enough to make the right really angry?
No.
Well, then I think there's no chance for Biden to win this court case. Because their goal isn't about who's president. They don't care. Like you said, they serve the same master. It's now or later. Are we going into the globalist agenda right now? Or do we get 4 more years of pretend nationalism? Right? We all know we're a Zionistic pawn in every sense of the imagination. We know that the moon landings have been faked since the beginning. And if
I contest that.
Well, I mean, you can contest that, but can you explain how there's orange juice on the negatives of Apollo 16?
Orange juice?
Orange juice. Well, it's Tang, to be technical. How did they spill orange juice out of their suit that was supposed to be airtight on the negatives for the pictures in Apollo 16?
I haven't seen that, no.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we have our content for next week's show. Next week's show will be me proving to Sash that we never went to the moon.
God damn it.
I
trapped myself.
What?
I trapped myself.
You
Fuck.
did. You definitely
God damn
did.
it. God. I
So-
was trying so hard to avoid that topic. Fuck.
No, we get a
God
moon
damn.
show. Next month will be the moon show. And so here's the problem. Like, what can you give me to suggest that Donald Trump is on my team if he's the one out there creating Space Force when the moon landings are fake and $62 million a day goes to NASA's budget.
I mean, from your perspective,
No. Like you can put whether the Earth is a closed system, put that like in a totally different category. We didn't go to the moon. And next week will be absolute, beyond a shadow of a doubt, proving that to you. I know even Dan's flipping out in chat. Wait. Sash is a moon believer?
yes.
All right, so next week is going to be a fun one for me as we get to ruin his hopes and dreams. I cried when I found out we didn't go to the moon. At the end of the day, and look, this is what Dan's right about. It's all a show of social engineering. We must keep our individualism. We must keep crushing in our own rights. We must better ourselves and our lives every day in a way we can. Like financially and physically. I did like 370 push-ups this morning. Crushing. No, 363 to be fair. But anyway, you've got to keep moving forward in your own life because Trump's not going to save you. He's
No.
gonna make it worse unless Biden wins, and then Biden can make it worse because they're in control of this.
Basically, long story short is that it doesn't matter, guys. What happens in your own house is more important than what goes on in the White House.
Very true, but I'm talking about the world because we're globally going to war. We are going
With who?
Everyone is going to war.
But like who? But like who's the first target?
Well, it's really going to depend, and that's why the subject of, or the title of this is Now or Later. Because if Trump comes in, then we're going to see more civil unrest, and we're going to see more of a deterioration of America. Who's that against? I mean, we know that China is funding it. We know that the Zionistic control is airtight. We know that they're at fault, and that's provable as well. So if Trump wins, then the international war is coming later.
Okay.
And if Biden wins, like remember he was vice president to the man who started, what was it, 7 new wars?
Yemen, Syria, Libya, almost Egypt.
Yeah, but didn't.
Almost. Fuck, that was so close. He continued Iraq, continued Afghanistan. He tried
We're
to
missing some.
like I know he for sure gave the green light to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Libya and Syria.
Yeah, for sure.
I think. Oh fuck. I think the rest were in like Africa, like.
Yeah, I
Sub-Saharan,
think
yeah.
opposing Gaddafi and the Golden Dinar was probably
Basically, remember Joseph Kony 2012?
Oh goodness, yes.
Yeah. That was actually
Uganda.
the cover that Obama used to send in a few troops to Uganda.
I don't doubt that for a millisecond.
And then the guy that made that documentary got caught naked in the
bus.
streets of L.A.
Yeah, I know.
he was on meth.
South Park did quite a funny parody of that one. But
I fell for that though.
But-
Kony 2012.
my point is, yeah, but how young were you? Like 16? Every 16
I was
year old
15.
did. Yeah, every 15-year-old did. Help the babies. I was on 4chan too much to believe it at the time, but all right, yeah, even Dan in chat is saying he can prove this 1,000 times over. Well, Dan, it'll probably be a lot of old news to you next week.
Okay. One
maybe you'll hear
question
something. Go ahead.
I'll ask is,
Go
what if the planet we're on is much bigger than we realize?
Well, the problem with that is the justification with Einstein's theory of relativity, right? So all of the math that seems so consistent would immediately be wrong. So that would mean it would mean we've probably never figured it out because it's not beyond possibility, but the fact that the theory of relativity, the fact that the math for gravity works so consistently means if the world is still a ball and there still is a such thing as gravity and you still can stand upside down, but it's a much bigger ball, then gravity is no longer explained. And then you'd have to argue probably that we're in a geocentric universe, and then you got a lot of problems with that. It's a possibility, but it doesn't make that much sense because the way that things appear. But anyway, the moon landing is all that we're talking about. Ask yourself this. If the moon landing was fake, do you really want to know?
Yes.
You may choose, as many do, to live in denial. That's okay. We each have our own tolerance for the truth we can handle.
You know what? I'll come in with an open mind, but I'm not going to, just take you on your word.
All right. But remember, you take the blue pill. You wake up tomorrow and you believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill and you see how deep this rabbit hole goes. I mean, it's absolutely.
We have the white. What's this character's name? The white Morpheus.
No, the white Morpheus.
Fuck.
Yeah. So the point is that if we think that American right is too peaceful, then I think we're going to see Trump put in, but it's just now or later. It's not going to be different. The same things are coming. We're going to get a globalist president after Trump. We're not going to get Trump Jr.
I think if Trump does get a second term, he'll be much more globalist.
Oh, how interesting.
Let me explain.
Okay, go ahead.
His rhetoric before the election, he started sounding much more like a standard politician.
Yes,
he
but
was
that's because if you think about how Trump casted his net in 2016, it caught a very certain type of base, and these were the extremists, right? Not racially extremists, but they were not your milquetoast conservatives. They're the same breed as the Tea Party, right? They wanted someone out of the system. They were the ones fed up with the political bullcrap, right? So once Trump caught that base, it was next to impossible for him to lose them because his opponent was Joe Biden. He could have lost them if his opponent was Bernie Sanders. But since his opponent was Joe Biden, it was next to impossible to him to lose the base that believes he was the outsider. So what that means is he doesn't need to speak to them anymore. He only needs to make sure they'll vote, which he did because he painted all the horror stories and the fear and the Joe Biden and all that very well. They're going to steal the election. He did that very well. But then he just needed to capture that milquetoast conservative who might go neoliberal over Trump. And so when you realize how slivered his target was from the scientific point of view, he only adjusted his rhetoric because he assumed he still had the 2016. And Dan's promising you that you're not going to leave a moon landing believer.
All right. We'll see. We'll see.
I'll have it ready. I'll give a good show, Dan. And if you want to shoot me anything in an email to include, I can definitely go over it. And I know if you want to come on, you can talk to it.
My own too.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll research this topic too.
Definitely do that. So we are on the hour, or sorry, on the 30-minute mark. We've done an hour.
Okay, so your final prediction, what's going to happen come January 20th?
I think Trump stays in power still, but it's not our savior. And if Biden wins, it's going to be okay. Like the people who are awake are going to be just fine.
Yeah,
We've just got to be. There's no black pill in this dojo.
Like, I'll tell you this. I think Trump will get screwed out. I think. Hello, Sika.
We're on air.
Well, way to be late to the party. I'm kidding.
My little sister just walked in. Sorry about that. Sash can't keep focused. Anyway, we are on the just on our hour-long mark, and we're going to wind it down to an end, or else it would be too boring for even me to listen back to.
Oh.
I'd like to make a couple comments that since the election, like everything except I guess the NASDAQ's gone down a little bit, but Bitcoin's been going up. The markets have been going up. Like there's a flood of people spending their money, which is so hilarious to me because things are still unknown, which goes back to the reality
bought some stock last week.
It goes back to the reality that it's just absolutely played out. It's planned, and it doesn't matter whether Trump or Biden gets in because they are two wings of the same bird.
Yep.
All right, guys, have a wonderful morning from Vietnam.
All right, guys, see you next
Keep
week.
on crushing. Remember that as long as you keep your own individualism, there's just absolutely nothing that matters about who's in the White House.
The Earth is round.
It's definitely round. It's not spherical.
It's spherical.
It's not, and you have no evidence for that. But anyway, moving on. Next week we will show to Sash that